Hello, my dear, and welcome to the Sweet Fire Soul Revival YouTube channel. My name is Jo, and I am so excited that you're here. So, I've been hinting at this for a hot minute, and I'm finally getting around to doing it. And the reason that I didn't do this before is because I was so fucking uninspired. Every time I sat down to record this, I hated it. And so, while I didn't just throw the idea away or say, oh, I'm never going to do this, like, what the fuck ever, because it's not working out right now, I just sort of let it go. And not in a, like I said, giving up type of way, just sort of a, you know what, I'm not going to focus on it right now. I'll set it on the back burner. I'm going to work on this shadow work series and do all these other things. And when the idea comes, when the inspiration comes, it comes. And so, finally, last week, it came as I was journaling, and I was like, holy fuck, that's how I'm going to do this series. Because I really wanted to bring this to you in sort of a different way than kind of what is already out there. And while I will be sort of informally teaching you how to read the tarot, I also want to express what I've learned from these cards. And I've been reading tarot for almost 20 years, and it's amazing, honestly, that to this day there is so much that I'm still learning from these cards. And you may remember earlier in the year, I had a 14-week course, and so much of that was tarot related. I will be bringing that back. I'm kind of in the middle of revamping it right now, and I'm changing how I bring you all of this information. But I wanted to get out this free series because it just needed to come out, and I didn't want to wait and like incorporate it into the arcana. I wanted to do this as a standalone. So, this is what I learned from the tarot. And each week we're going to be going through a different card, and we're going to go through all 78 cards. But I also want to say that there is no fucking one way or right way to read tarot. That's the biggest lesson here. And anybody who tells you otherwise is limited and attempting to limit you. And I just don't feel like that's really the way to go about it. To say this is the only way or here's the right way. Nah. You can read tarot any fucking way that you want. That is what it is here for. There's so many different ways these cards can be interpreted and so many different messages that they have to convey to us. And especially when we read intuitively or when we connect with our intuition as we're reading cards instead of just memorizing a meaning or looking at the book or whatever. I want you to be able to put your own stories, your own perceptions, your own intuitive message to these cards. So that's kind of how I wanted to bring this to you, because I feel like it's just a little bit more holistic, I guess, in approach versus this card means this card means that. Like, that's so fucking boring, and I hated trying to learn from books because they're so incredibly rigid, and that is not what I'm about. So, all of that being said, let's get down to it. Our first card is the Fool. You'll notice that the Fool is 0 instead of 1. And the Fool really has this energy of, why not? Why not just do the thing? The Fool has this energy of limitlessness and really just is all about, let's fucking do it. He is completely unconcerned with what the next step is, with, oh man, well, how am I gonna get off this ledge? What's gonna happen next? Like, the Fool doesn't ask what if, the Fool doesn't ask how, the Fool just fucking goes for it. And the Fool is really about not letting that fear control you. And so the Fool says, you can hang out in fear if that's really what you want. It's completely your choice, but you can also fucking go for what you want. You can move forward, and how is not important, and what if is not important. Really just look into yourself and see what it is that you actually want. What do you want to go for? What is it that lights you up? And then fucking go for it. Because the Fool is unconcerned. I mean, really. You can see that in the body language. It's just kind of like, I mean, the Fool isn't even looking at what's ahead. He's just going for it. And when I say he, I don't necessarily, I'm not like assigning kind of like a gender necessarily, just sort of, just sort of the energy. And that's something else to keep in mind with cards, is really, there is no gender. It's really just what energy it is. So it could be masculine energy, it could be feminine energy, but I don't believe in reading a card based on the gender of the card. King, queen, page, knight, whatever. Like, it's really just energy. So, that's kind of a side note. So the Fool is really saying, and what I most learned from the Fool is, don't concern yourself with the things that don't concern you. Your obligation is to you. Your obligation is to the vision. Your obligation isn't to the what ifs, and it's certainly not to the how. And that isn't to say that there's something wrong with having a plan. Absolutely not. If you want to have a plan, have a plan. Visualize all you want. But when you get down to some kind of exact, like, well, the first step is this, and then this needs to happen, and this needs to happen, and this needs to happen, and this can only come to me this way. For example, I can only make money through my day job. I can only make money doing this. I can only have that. I can only be this. I can only do that. When we do this, we're saying these are the parameters in which I live my life, and that is it. So when we ask for things and we say, well, it has to come this way or it has to be that way, ultimately what we're doing is limiting how things get to us. And think about it this way, it doesn't fucking matter how. Like, when you place an online order, you don't think about how it's going to get to you. You place your order, you make your payment, and you know it's going to come to you, right? Like, you're not like, well, it can only come in this type of box with, you know, like, there's no, because you can't control that. So think of it that way when you are going after something you want, when you're ready to plant the seed, when you're ready to move forward, when you're taking that inspired action, the how isn't what you need to be worried about. The what ifs aren't what you need to be worried about. Does that make sense? The Fool is not interested in any of that, because the Fool knows it is this or something better. It's what I want, or it's even more. And we live in this society where we feel like, and we're constantly conditioned to believe that there's not enough. Lack. Well, you can't have that because they have that. Like, fucking no. There's plenty for us all. But we are very conditioned to believe exactly the opposite. And the Fool doesn't believe that at all. The Fool's like, nah, man, like, whatever. That's what I want, and that's what I'm gonna go get. And if it's not that, then it's something better. It's something even more. It's better than what I imagined. And that isn't to say, again, that there is something wrong with planning or having, a backup plan. There's nothing wrong with that. But to rely specifically on the plan, to rely specifically on this is how it has to happen no matter what, or I don't want it. Why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Why would you say, well, this can only come to me through this channel and no other way possible? The universe is always going to work things out exactly in your favor in the way that makes the most sense. And we don't have to know what way that is. And we're human, and that bothers us. We want to fucking know how and when it's coming. But it's not really up to us necessarily in terms of anything other than what we can control. So how can you embody that Fool energy? How can you say, okay, if it's this or something better, and I don't really need to know how exactly this is all going to happen, if my only obligation is to the vision and to doing what feels right to me and taking the inspired action and doing what I already know to do and just taking those steps forward and going with the flow, what do I need to do next? What's next? What's the vision? And get fucking clear about it. Get crystal clear. So the biggest lesson I really learned from the Fool is that being devoted has to come first. Discipline is great. Don't get me wrong. But discipline just doesn't outweigh devotion. Devotion has to come first. You have to be devoted to that dream. You have to be devoted to whatever it is that you want to bring into your life. Otherwise, you're not really going to find a way or a reason to be disciplined about it. If you don't really want it, you're not going to go after it. So that fire, that devotion has to come first. Like I said, discipline is amazing, but the Fool is about the devotion. He's about, let's fucking go. This is what I want. We're going to go get it right now. And like, the fucking plan will come when the fucking plan comes. But as for right now, I'm just going to take one step at a time towards what I want. So if you're kind of feeling in this place where you're like, oh, I have this dream and I want to manifest it so badly, but I don't have a plan. I don't know how it's going to happen. Don't feel like the love, the passion, the devotion is not enough. It is absolutely, I think, crucial to have that. Otherwise, it's kind of empty. And discipline can come absolutely devoid of devotion. However, there's really not a payoff. If there is no love for what you're doing or what you're going after, it's empty. So I feel like devotion is really, really, really key. It's super paramount. And that's what the Fool is really about, in that energy of devotion over discipline. And we get to discipline, absolutely. We're going to be talking all about that with the Emperor. But the Fool is the key ingredient in all of it. So Anyways, that is the biggest lesson that I've learned from the Fool, and there's so many different things that the Fool can really mean. Again, it's sort of like this new beginning. And we'll get into some deeper foundational meanings a little bit later. I just wanted to take this series in a sort of an informal way and talk about the things that these cards have taught me, the biggest lessons I've learned from these cards, and the biggest messages and the key things that have come through, and hope that you can take these things and these sort of perspectives that have come to me and put your own stories to them. And this is really how I remembered to read the tarot, is through putting my own experiences into what the foundational meanings are and into what these cards mean. And honestly, memorizing meanings doesn't come close to putting your intuition into it and to really listening to exactly what these cards are trying to tell you. Because like I said, there is no one way. There is no just one meaning. The Fool is not solely and only ever about new beginnings. So, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will see you next week. I love you. Bye.